Okay, it looks like we are live on Facebook, but sometimes it's hard to tell. So Dr. Tom is working on joining us right now. So everyone's had good energy that his Wi-Fi in Costa Rica will work, because he just messaged me and said, can you pull this off on your own, Michelle? And I really would prefer when we are nerding out on this together. So he just wanted me to send the link, and this time to Marzi. So I'm going to do that. So bear with me. I apologize. I just wanted to jump on so that you didn't think we had forgotten about you. Let me get this link for him. Okay, that was sent. So hopefully he'll be on here in a second. And this is our monthly Facebook Live that is a Q&A. So let me just refresh the Facebook page to see if this is actually working, to see if anyone's joining. Looks like it's live here, but there's some people out there. Awesome. Long Island, New York. Wanda, I heard you guys didn't have power. So you obviously have power. Hi, Dorota. It's so nice to see you on here. Hi, Amal. Thanks for being here. Hi, Jeanette from Nebraska. Thanks for jumping in. Awesome. And great, we're having some people join. So awesome. So you obviously have power. Hi, Dorota. It's so nice to see you on here. Hi, Amal. Thanks for. Whoops. Helps to have these in. This is amateur hour, so hey, thanks for staying with me. I got that turned off now, so you shouldn't be hearing me in stereo. And come on, Dr. Tom. Okay, he says, never mind, got it. So you might be joining us. As the questions start to get posted, I just wanted to start. He wanted me to have something prepared, so there wasn't dead air. And hi, Laura. Thanks for being here. Hi, JC Ann from Pennsylvania. Thanks for joining in. And we have Eugene, Oregon in the house. That's such a beautiful area. Dr. Tom is here. Excellent.
Hello, hello. It says I'm unable to start my video. I don't know why. Our internet has been very slow. So Michelle, I think I'm going to have to reboot my computer and come back on. So,
okay, we're live on Facebook right now. So
I get it. I get it. So, hello, everyone, and welcome. And Michelle will stick with you while I reboot and come back. So it'll take a minute, but I'll be back.
Okay. Come back to us. All right, we have North Wales here, Cleveland. Excellent. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Dr. Tom's going to reboot and come right back. They've just been having a lot of difficulties with Wi-Fi. So I got a question yesterday, and so I just want to kind of start off with this question comment, and then as the questions start to come in, I can jump over to those. But someone asked me what I did for a living, and I said I was a functional medicine nutritionist, and they said, oh, can I ask you a question? And I said, sure. I never know what the questions are going to be. And they said, what probiotics should I take? And I wish it was that easy. I wish I could just look at somebody and scan them and say, okay, the probiotic you should take is, but I don't have those magic powers. And it's so important to test and not guess, because right now we're seeing such an overgrowth of bacteria in the gut. And so if you have an overgrowth of lactobacillus and you're taking a high dose lactobacillus supplement, or you have an overgrowth of bifido and you're taking a high dose bifido, that can be really problematic. Can we see people with small intestinal bacteria overgrowth that take supplements that get so much worse, gas, bloating, distension, pain, and it just makes all their symptoms so much worse. So I wish it was as easy as here's the one probiotic that everyone should take and it will solve everything. But unfortunately, it's not quite that easy. And it's really important to know what's going on in your microbiome, because if you're having gut symptoms or you're having health issues, often there's something out of balance in the gut. But I wanted to share with you some things as questions start to roll in that are free things or really inexpensive things that we can do to optimize our health that will, that might work for you, right? It may not be something that is your specific need, but maybe. But what I'm seeing right now is so many of these GI symptoms and food just not digesting optimally. And there's so many reasons this could be happening, so many. But one thing that we can all do to make sure that our food is digesting optimally is to make sure that we are in a calm state prior to eating. So we want to be in a parasympathetic state. We don't want to be in a cortisol-induced running from the saber-toothed tiger where all of the blood flow is in our arms and legs. We're in this high cortisol, stress-induced, eating on the run, kind of like this stressed out society that most people are in. And I have so many people that are eating standing in the kitchen or eating in their car, rushing around on the way to work. Now people are eating at home more often, so this is easier to do. But now I'm finding that people are eating in front of the news, which is crazy stress inducing. So one thing that we can really do to, Dr. Tom, is he coming? To optimize digestion is before each meal, just sit, take 2 deep breaths, and just really make sure that we're in a state of calm, that we're not like stressing and responding to emails, that we're not watching the news, that we're not eating in this heightened stress response. And that's going to really shift digestion. Okay. And it's free, right? Sometimes we get in this mindset of this expensive supplement is going to solve all of our problems. And maybe it is, but this is something that's not going to cost you anything that could make a huge difference. So that's sitting down before a meal. There's some research that shows that being grateful, just taking a moment to be grateful for your food, eating in community, that whole getting back to the family meal can be really profound. And then also really chewing food well. If you're seeing undigested food in your stool, one of the first things I recommend doing is just really counting bites, putting your fork down and counting bites until you can change that habit of really chewing food well. Dr. Tom, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Michelle, and it says that since you're the host, you have to allow my video.
Well, that's just silly.
There's always something, isn't there? There is always
I tell
something.
ya, I made you a panelist, so why would I need to?
Yeah, I just clicked on start video again. It says unable to start video. Hold on, everyone. We will get, oh, I'm the host now. You made me the host, and here I come. Oh. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. Thanks, Michelle. Thank you so much.
Happy to see you here.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, one of my favorite videos, and we've shared this, Marzi and I have shared this with so many people over the years, it's on YouTube. It's 6 minutes long. It's called The Price of Admission. And Michelle, you know this video.
So good.
And
So good.
everyone that watches it, this is about couples and about relationships. And everyone that watches it, you're laughing. The guy is just not proper in his language. You know, he's kind of a foul-mouthed guy, but he does it in a funny way. And the topics he talks about are so relevant to relationships. And he talks about there are some things in your partner. It's the price of admission to be in that relationship. It's just the price of admission. And Marzi and I have used that concept many times over the years. You know, when I'm like a little startled by something that she's done, or she's a little startled by me, which happens much more frequently, you know, I'll say, sorry, price of admission, right? I'll let it go. So part of the price of admission of being here in Costa Rica is that the power goes out about once every 2 days for a little while, or the internet goes out. And so that's what's happened here today. So I'm glad to be with you now. And I want to do a shout out. My cousin Carol's here. Hi, Carol. I miss you guys, really miss you guys. And tell Aunt Annie I said hello and I send my love, okay? Kelly's here from Indiana, and Jennifer's here, and Dwin's back in the house, and Colleen's in Naples, and you know, the list goes on. And there's, let's go to a question. Amanda has a question. It's actually a really good question. This is Amanda from Sydney, Australia. I have a question about intermittent fasting. And those of you may know that we've talked about this before. That's the concept of eating all of your food within about an 8-hour time window. So you have 16 hours where you're not eating. And what happens, you know, we have a survival mechanism. Remember, I've said many times, we have the same body as our ancestors thousands of years ago. And one of the survival mechanisms for our ancestors was if they didn't get food, if there was no source of food available, it immediately turns on the production of more stem cells. Stem cells encourage new cells to grow, fresh new cells, new brain cells, and every cell in your body. Remember I said we regenerate an entire new body every 7 years. That regeneration process occurs because of stem cells. And when we didn't have food on a regular basis, our bodies would make more stem cells, so that we had enough energy and enough vital energy to go out and find food. So when you do intermittent fasting, one of the potential benefits is some studies have noticed an increase in stem cells, meaning you're making younger, healthier cells. So that's the basis of the question that comes from Amanda. I've got a question about intermittent fasting. Can you take vitamin C, ascorbic acid, rhodiola, and holy basil during the 16-hour fasting time? Or should supplements be taken in the 8-hour eating window? I want to maintain the full health benefits of fasting. The rest of my supplements can be taken within the 8-hour eating window. I'm just not sure about the additional vitamin C I would like to take. Really good question. And as far as I know, taking extra vitamin C does not stimulate your digestion, and thus your body would still feel there's not calories coming in, and you would get the benefits of the 16-hour window where you're not eating, as far as I know. I've not specifically looked for science on that, but so that's just my opinion. Michelle, do you have any further information on that question?
I think it's a great question, and I don't know. I haven't read the research. I think it would be a great idea to maybe do some blood sugar testing around that time to see if it impacts on blood sugar.
Agreed. Oh, Annie Ross is in the house from Lodi, California. Well, hi, Annie.
The best mama.
That's Michelle's mama, and that's really nice. Nice that you're here. Thank you so much. Jane O'Brien's in the house from Massachusetts. Nancy is in Buffalo. Maggie's in Cleveland. Mark's in Winston-Salem. Hello, everyone, and thanks so much for being here. It's really great to see you. A question came to me yesterday asking, there are enzymes out there that are gluten digesting enzymes. And what's the difference between the E3 that's on our website, the wheat rescue that I've been talking about, and the other digestive enzymes that are out there? It's a good question, and it relates to all of us. As you all have heard, if you've been with us before, that every human gets intestinal permeability within 5 minutes of wheat coming out of the stomach into the small intestine. Poorly digested wheat. Within 5 minutes, it happens. And we've got the videos, I show them in my talks, and the doctors sit there, their jaws drop. They've never seen anything like it. These videos that come from, it was a joint effort of Detlef Schupan, a world famous gastroenterologist at Harvard, and a university in Germany and a university in London. The three of them together published this paper showing actual intestinal permeability as it's happening. And it happens within 5 minutes. And these very stiff, formal, brilliant gastroenterologists wrote in the paper, and the intestinal permeability was visible to everyone who was observing. That's their way of saying, holy cow, Batman, look at this. Look at this, right? So they don't get too excited, but it's very cool to see. But for every human, it happens within 5 minutes, within 5 minutes. And the key here is poorly digested wheat coming out of the stomach into the first part of the small intestine. So if we can avoid any residue of poorly digested wheat coming out of the stomach into the first part of the small intestine, we avoid this whole topic of wheat, inadvertent exposures to wheat, because people go gluten-free, and celiacs are the primary example. They go squeaky clean gluten-free, but only 8% of them heal completely. But I'm gluten-free, doc, I don't eat anything, I promise. But they don't heal. And it's because of the inadvertent exposures, the contamination that they get from other foods, like some spices have a little wheat flour in them. Or sometimes, let's see, French fries will have a little wheat flour, or they're dusted with wheat flour. And you never think to ask because they're French fries, you know, they're potatoes. No, they're not. They're commercial, and they dust them, or they include wheat, the gluten, to keep them sticking together in the manufacturing of them. So we get these exposures, and even when you're trying to be squeaky clean, it can be enough to activate. All it takes is 1/8 of a thumbnail to activate that whole intestinal permeability inflammatory response. So the question was, do all of the gluten enzymes work? And the answer is probably all of them work, but some of them take 3 to 6 hours to work. Most of them take 3 to 6 hours to work. So they're going to protect your large intestine, because it takes a while for food to move on down your intestines, right? And those enzymes will protect your large intestine from being exposed, but not the first part of your small intestine. You have to digest this stuff in the stomach. And the only enzymes that are shown to do that, E3 Advanced Plus, we came out with that 10 years ago now. It was 10 years that we've been using E3 Advanced Plus, and it works really well, and the science is really clear. It digests any gluten, inadvertent exposures to gluten, and the other 7 top food sensitivities: dairy, eggs, soy, corn, nuts, peanuts, fish. So E3 digests all of that. But we've never seen the studies that E3 digests more of the peptides of poorly digested wheat. Gluten, yes, but not the other peptides like wheat amylase trypsin inhibitors, glutenins, prodynorphins. There's a number of different components of poorly digested wheat that when they come out of the stomach into the intestines can activate that inflammatory cascade. And E3 Advanced Plus hasn't been shown to digest more than just the alpha gliadin proteins, which was great. Its time was great. Well, the new product, Wheat Rescue, digests many, many more peptides of poorly digested wheat. The glutenins, the other gliadins, the gluteomorphins. So it's the next generation in digestive enzymes. So if you want to be safe, you want to see the evidence that the enzymes that your healthcare practitioner is recommending or the health food store owner is recommending. Show me the science that says that it digests this stuff within 60 minutes. It takes 60 to 90 minutes in general for food to come out of the stomach into the first part of the small intestine where the sentries are standing guard. So that's why Marzi and I take a Wheat Rescue before every meal. If we're not sure. Now, if we've got organic spices and they're labeled gluten-free, great, then we're good. Or if we're using fresh cilantro or parsley or something like that, good. We won't take the enzymes. There's extremely rare to have contamination. But if we're not sure, or if we're eating out, although here in the jungle, we're not eating out much, but there's one small restaurant just down the trail a little bit. We go there, but we take our enzymes. We'll have a piece of fish grilled on the grill, but who knows what was on that grill beforehand? A hamburger bun maybe, because they serve hamburgers there and they warm the hamburger buns and then they put the fish on top of the breadcrumbs. I don't know. So that's why you want to take a Wheat Rescue or an E3 before each meal. Michelle, anything you want to add to that?
Well, I think sometimes it can just be helpful for people to see a visual of what's happening. So protein structure of gluten, what's happening, Dr. Tom? We want to break off each one of these amino acids, right? And these are like examples of a clump of gluten that just doesn't break down in the human body, right?
Right, exactly right. And this is the pearl necklace that we're talking about. And the color variations tell the whole story. When you're eating wheat, the color variations that this one paper by Professor Fasano was talking about was the ones that trigger killing off cells in the gut. That's the red ones down that bottom left corner. The ones that stimulate an immune response, making more cytokines, are the green ones. And the ones that trigger intestinal permeability are the blue ones. And these are all just different parts of poorly digested wheat. And there's actually 62 different components of poorly digested wheat that have been shown to cause a problem. That study came out, I think it was, Michelle, was that about 2013 or 2014 on that study? Or earlier, maybe.
Let me get the date here, 2008. Oh, 2011.
2011, yeah. And so now we know there are more pieces than that, but our researchers are doing this really geek research, and they identify these components and they watch and see what happens, right? There are 62 components of wheat that can trigger your immune system to respond. And so the pictures are great. They tell, it's like 1,000 words. So thank you, Michelle, for the pictures. Let's see, I just saw a question. Let's see, can high dose intravenous vitamin C contribute to cataracts? Thank you for your answer. I've not seen that anywhere in the literature. I've never seen that. I had a cataract when I was 44, believe it or not. To me, I couldn't believe it. I was doing triathlons and scoring in the top 10% of the 30 to 35-year-olds when I was 44. So I was walking tall, I'm a stud, right? And I'm healthy. No, you're not. You got a cataract. And it's like, what? But I'm healthy. No, you're not. Your muscles are healthy, but you got a cataract, right? So there's some degenerative process going on in my body. That was a rude awakening for me. And that's why you can't just do one thing to focus on your health. We need to focus on base hits win the ball game, all the little base hits all the way around, right? So it turned out that my cataract was from lead poisoning from my birth to 8 years old, where we lived, was across the river in Detroit from the Ford Rouge River assembly line. So like just across the river and 1 block off the river, that's where we lived. Some little kid riding my bicycle in 1954, 1955, I'm sucking lead in the air because the smokestacks didn't have any pollution controls. And that stayed in my bloodstream or in my body for 40 years. 40 years, and it manifested as a cataract. Startled me. So cataracts can be caused by heavy metal toxicity, by an immune response to toxins, an accumulation of toxic crud in your body called lipopolysaccharides. But I'm not aware of any evidence of it being associated with IVs of vitamin C. I'm just not aware of that. Michelle, have you heard anything about that one?
I haven't, but the thing that really caught me in that whole story was that it took 40 years for your body to break down and cause symptoms. Our bodies are so amazing, and they deal with abuse, years and years of abuse, and they can cope with it until they finally can't, right?
That's right. That's right. Good point. Good point. And that's why postmenopausal women often have quicker brain deterioration, that the level of brain deterioration they had before going through a change was not very much. But afterwards, it seems every year it's faster and faster and faster. One of the reasons for that is when we're exposed to lead, we all are, if your bodies can't detox and get rid of it, a large percentage of it gets deposited in your bones, where it's pretty much out of the way, more than less out of the way. And when women go through a change, if they don't have enough estrogen, and when you go through a change of life, your ovaries shut down, they're done, they did their job. And it's the job of your adrenal glands to make about 1/10 the estrogen that your ovaries used to make, specifically to keep strong bones and cardiovascular health. But if you've had a lifetime of stress and you've worn down your adrenal glands and you're in a state of sympathetic depletion, I talk about that in our book, You Can Fix Your Brain, a lot. But if you're in that state of sympathetic depletion, you go through a change of life, your adrenal glands can't cut it. They just can't do what they're supposed to do. And the result is these women are estrogen deficient, and they may have a whole range of symptoms, but one of them is lead gets mobilized out of their bones because their bone cells are breaking down, because you need a little bit of estrogen to keep your bone cells strong, and their bone cells start breaking down. The lead gets in the bloodstream and it goes right up to the brain, causing more inflammation, accelerating what already was an ongoing inflammatory cascade at a certain pace, but now it's going faster. And so women who notice after a change of life that their memory is not quite what it used to be, and it's really become noticeable in the last few years, this could be one of the reasons why. There's a really nice question here from Alma Natural Health. Hi, doctor. I have a very hard case with my younger daughter that I would like to see if I can consult with you directly. I'm part of the FND students, marvelous group. She's been dealing with a severe case of food and environmental allergies, wondering if you can direct me to the right direction. I've read your books, and meantime, and then the message stops. So Alma, of course, we've got an entire service for that, consultations at theDr.com. And I would suggest that this is a tough case. I would suggest you schedule an appointment with Michelle, have a conversation with Michelle. She's our director of clinical services and can most likely give you really good guidance on this.
Catherine has a great question. She says, thanks
Yep.
for doing these chats. I've been working to heal my leaky gut. Any estimates on how long it takes to heal the gut? And more importantly, how do I know when it's healed?
Yes, that is a really good question, because your skin heals pretty quickly usually, right? You break a bone, it heals, and it takes a while, but it heals. How long does it take to heal a gut, a leaky gut? Well, we're in the midst of a study right now that's specifically looking at that to see how many people we can eliminate or reduce the markers of intestinal permeability within 90 days. And so I suspect it'll be more than 50% will be completely healed within 90 days. My suspicion, but we'll find out. And probably 40% will be dramatically improved with a few markers still there. Why? Because what we're focusing on in this study quite a bit is rebuilding the microbiome. It's not about taking some vitamins to heal your gut. There are supplements the participants are taking, but they're all around rebuilding the microbiome. They're all doing gluten-free, dairy-free, added sugar-free. The things that we talk about all the time, the things in both of my books, but we'll have a lot more evidence after this study is done. And it's the determinant factor. There are two major determinant factors in how long does it take for my gut to heal. The first one, intestinal permeability is an inflammatory condition. We have to stop throwing gasoline on the fire. That means you have to identify the triggers causing the inflammation in your gut. Most common trigger is what's on the end of your fork. Next most common trigger, I suspect, I don't have a numbered sequence, this is just clinical experience. The next most common trigger is parasites in your gut. The next most common trigger, and right up there with parasites, is the state of your microbiome. How many good guys do you have? How many bad guys? Which good guys do you have? Which bad guys? Which bad guys are really proliferative? Which ones are not? So the state, it's called dysbiosis, when your microbiome's out of balance. And that is a major, major determinant of how quickly you heal. Is obviously if you've got intestinal permeability, that environment is not good right now. And if you're not putting attention on rebuilding a healthy microbiome and you're taking glutamine, because we knew back in the 1980s, glutamine helped heal intestinal permeability. We saw the results with that, with HIV people and things, people who were really, really sick. When you gave them large doses of glutamine, they were able to absorb food and they felt better, and colitis got better and all that, but they would rebound and go into remission when you stop the glutamine. Why? Because the microbiome's inflamed. You've got a dysbiotic microbiome, or you're still eating the garbage that's gasoline on the fire causing the problem. Michelle, do you want to add to that?
I have a great list that I've gotten from you and combined from other places in research on all the things that can contribute to intestinal permeability. But yeah, I mean, you highlighted some important ones. Infection, there's these stealth infections that can be hiding out. I just saw somebody that has pretty advanced Crohn's, down to basically 4 veggies and animal protein, which is really not a good quality of life, right? And basically every stealth infection was out of range on NeuroZoomer Plus. I'm pretty extremely out of range.
Wow.
Yeah, so staph and HHV6 and yeah. So
what that means, everyone, what that means, the NeuroZoomer Plus, there are 48 markers of inflammation in your brain in that test. And Michelle is saying almost every one of them was way out of balance. That's a highly inflamed brain.
Yeah, well, everything in the infection. So there's different categories. There's brain autoimmunity and everything in the infection. I always like to look like where is the pocket? Are there things out of range kind of all over the map? Or do we have kind of one area that's in particularly a problem? And without testing, you don't know that, right? You can kind of look at a CBC with diff and see, do we have markers that show that there might be infections? But without a neural zoomer plus, right, you just really can't know that. So there's a long list now that research is showing that can contribute to this intestinal permeability. So it's more than just gluten and lipopolysaccharides. And thank you, Fasano, for showing us that those were a problem 11 years ago or however many years ago, because those are key and they're still a problem. But it's more than that. And it really comes down to compliance and mindset, right, for the healing process. And I think it's really important to get those initial biomarkers, because I've seen on a wheat zoomer that somebody's intestinal permeability is just slightly out of range, and I've seen it 30-fold out of range, right? So it kind of gives you more of like that mindset of, all right, I gotta push up my sleeves and I'm in this for a while, right? And I've really got to dig deep and heal my gut. And other people, okay, let's check this in 6 months, right? And then let's do maintenance.
Yeah. Now for the healthcare practitioners here tonight, Michelle gave us a pearl. And the pearl was of one of many. On the Neural Zoomer Plus, it was the infections, that section that was way out of balance. So someone comes into you with cognitive problems or brain dysfunction, whether it's depression or anxiety or schizophrenia or seizures or memory loss, whatever it is, and you run the Neural Zoomer Plus and it's infections, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You got to treat the gut, because that's where the infections live most of the time. They migrate to other areas, but the home base most often is the gut. You've got to change that microbiome. And that's a clinical pearl that most neurologists do not operate from. And because they've not had a lot of gastroenterology courses, but the idea of the gut being the second brain is pretty well accepted now by everybody. Every healthcare practitioner has heard enough about this over the years. It was Dr. Michael Gershon in 1999 that published the book, The Second Brain. And he came and spoke at IFM's annual conference that year, or the next year in 2000, and just opened our eyes that's where I first learned about the 9-to-1 ratio. For every one message from the brain going down controlling gut function, there are 9 messages from the gut going up to control brain function. Oh, Michelle, I had a great concept recently that I'm going to share here. We've all heard about epigenetics, and we've all heard doctors like us talk about epigenetics. What does that mean? Well, around the gene. So it's not the gene. Your genes don't determine what you get for the majority of diseases, whether it's the BRCA gene in cancer or the Alzheimer's gene. Your genes don't determine you're going to get cancer or you're going to get Alzheimer's. Your genes determine that you're vulnerable to getting Alzheimer's or cancer, and that there is a switch that turns that gene on or turns that gene off. And it's really not even an on-off switch, it's a dimmer switch, so that you can kind of turn on the ApoE4 gene a little bit so your system's not working really well and you're heading down the path of what causes brain dysfunction. Or you can turn it on more so the dimmer switch is a little stronger and you're progressing more rapidly. Or you can calm it down, turn that dimmer switch down. Well, what do we mean by, so where are the genes? The genes are inside your cells. So what does epigenetics mean? It means what's also inside your cell that's turning the genes on or off. Well, what also is inside your cell that's turning the genes, the dimmer switch on your genes up or down? What's inside the cells? 1/3 of all of the small molecules in the bloodstream at any one time are exhaust from the microbiome in your gut. 1/3 of everything. Professor Schoenfeld, Yehuda Schoenfeld, published on that in his book, Autoimmunity. 1/3 of every molecule in your bloodstream, 1 out of 3 of them are from the metabolites of your lactobacillus and your bifidobacterium and all of the other metabolites that the exhaust that the bacteria produces. All of those bacteria produce exhaust. That exhaust gets in your bloodstream. It gets inside your cells. When it's inside your cells, it's many of them start to activate the dimmer switch of your genes. So you're either turning the gene up brighter to express itself, the good genes or the bad genes, or you're turning the genes down to not express itself, the good genes or the bad genes. It just depends on what's in your gut. That's why everyone should be doing a little bit of fermented vegetables every day. Everyone should be doing our 5-part sequence on rebuilding the microbiome every day, having attention on it. And if your body can't handle fermented vegetables, then you transition and you get your body to handle fermented vegetables. Michelle talked about that in the past, where she's had people, they have to start with just a little, half of a teaspoon of the juice of sauerkraut inside all of your salad dressing that's going on your salad or in your mashed potatoes. So I like the idea of this for people to understand. I hope it works for you guys. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down, if it doesn't work for you guys. This concept of the dimmer switch that is the epigenetics inside your cells. Michelle, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, and sometimes a half a teaspoon is too much. Sometimes you have to get that little teaspoon grouping that's like a pinch, a smidgen, and and just, it's barely anything. You can barely taste it, right? But just ease your body into it, or work with a practitioner who can help you figure out why you can't tolerate it, so that you can heal and rebalance so that you can tolerate it.
Oh, thank you. Well, I think I got about 10 or 12 thumbs up or hearts here. So either people are asleep or it doesn't work. I don't know. It's like, we're here entertaining you. This is interactive to some degree. Thumbs up or thumbs down? One of the two, all right? It's what fuels us and lets us know if we're on the right track with all this. All right, next question.
Next
Michelle,
question is from Maggie, and she says, what diet do you recommend for diagnosed mold toxicity?
There you go. That's yours, Michelle.
Okay, so again, there's not one diet for everyone. It would make my job a lot easier, but there's not. But there's some general guidelines when it comes to mold toxicity. We don't want to eat food that's going to feed the mold. So we want to make sure that we're not having processed sugar or processed carbohydrates that are going to convert to sugar. We have to really manage the amount of fruit. Fruit is critically important for bringing joy to life, and also for the incredible nutrient value, the fiber, right? It needs to be in its whole form. But you need to determine what your balance is that's going to allow you to continue healing. So maybe it's a 1/4 cup of blueberries, right? When I talk to somebody and they're saying, I'm having a green smoothie and I'm putting 1.5 cups of blueberries in and a whole banana, right? That can cross over into milkshake zones, right? So we have to make sure that we are keeping the total grams of sugar. For some people may need to be around 5 or 6 grams at a meal, right? When we're trying to starve out mold. Lots and lots of vegetables, right? As many as you can handle for your gut microbiome. Protein is so critically important. The best quality you can find, pasture raised, wild caught. Organic is such a hot word, but the cleanest form, know your farmer, know where the fish was caught. If you can handle eggs, pastured eggs, all of that, healthy fats. There's so many fat imbalances, right? We just can't hammer omega-3s and think we're all going to be healthy, because then we see imbalances of 6 and 9, right, Dr. Tom? It's not
exactly
just as simple as shotgunning omega-3 supplements. Again, it would be easier if it would, right? But you got to work with someone who can nuance this for you. And then nuts and seeds can be moldy, grains can be moldy. So it's really important to find out your tolerance level and to be choosing, like maybe eliminating pistachios, cashews, these nuts that are more prone to mold. Get rid of the peanut butter. Peanut butter is almost all full of aflatoxins, which is really carcinogenic, right? So there's some general principles, but then some people have to reduce oxalates, which can be like shards of glass and really increase pain. Some people have to go on low histamine because they're breaking out in rashes. So it has to be nuanced for you, but there's some general principles.
That's a really great answer. And if you've been diagnosed with a mold toxicity, your immune system fell down on the job. Your immune system got overwhelmed, probably not in a day or a week or a month, but it got overwhelmed. There was way too much mold you were being exposed to, and your immune system couldn't deal with it and get it out of there. So it's accumulated in your body. Well, what diet do I eat, or what vitamin do I take? Michelle answered that so well that, you know, I can't eat a banana. If I eat a whole banana, it affects my blood sugar. And this is years after not having any blood sugar problems anymore. For me, bananas, I mean, I can have a bite of a banana. Nobody wants to go bananas in life. And so I'm careful, you know, as much as I can to avoid bananas. I don't put a banana in my smoothie. I used to love making homemade ice cream from frozen bananas and blueberries. So I eat a whole bowl of frozen bananas and blueberries in my 30s and 40s. But it was homemade, fresh, you know, but it was so sweet. There was a whole lot of sugar in that, a healthier sugar, but the volume was enough to throw my body way out of balance. So go ahead.
Don't go right now. Wait till we're done, but just go to Jamba Juice and Google how many grams of sugar are in any of their smoothies. It's like 76 grams. And remember that 1 teaspoon of sugar is the equivalent of 4 grams. So think how many teaspoons of sugar, that's a dessert. That is not, and
Right.
That's like diabetes in a glass. So
that's a dessert for 10 people.
right.
A Jamba Juice, a Jamba Juice smoothie, 76 grams of sugar. That's 10 people's dessert of 7 grams, right?
And I don't want to be throwing absurd, you know, criticizing that one, all of the smoothie places, whatever one's closest to you, look them up on the internet and look at their grams of sugar and you'll be shocked. And I think it's really good awareness because blood sugar stabilization is foundational for wellness. So right now, if you're not well, we all have to, we can get really like married to our diet. It can be like a religion for us. And we just don't want anyone telling us to change our diet. This is our diet. But if your health isn't optimal, we all have to like say, okay, then clearly my diet is likely playing a role in that, right? And a lot of it is blood sugar balance. So you can get a free glucometer. They have them online. Just Google free glucometer and all these companies are giving them away. Where you're going to spend the money is on these little guys. These add up. So they get you by giving that away for free. But test your blood sugar at random times. Test it when you first wake up in the morning, 2 hours after a meal, 2 hours after a snack. People are eating all day long, drinking tea all day long, chewing gum all day long. There's something in their mouth all day long. And every time we consume anything between meals that's not water, we're releasing insulin. and we're creating this insulin resistance, right? So we need to create meal times, or we have our beverages in a limited amount so it doesn't mess with our digestion and our food, and then drink water and learn to enjoy it. Sometimes it takes a minute to get that flavorful. I got to put cucumbers in my water to get it down. I got to put all these things in my water to get it down. But think about these things. Test your blood sugar. Is it spiking above 140 2 hours after a meal? Is it below 85 first thing when you wake up? Is it above 100 first thing when you wake up? These are warning. These are flashing warning signs that likely that's where you need to focus, that your diet is not balanced of protein, fat, and veggies.
Great answer. So great answer. There's a question here from Mark. I lived for about 8 years in a small house with a wood-fired stove for heating. During this time, I got rheumatoid arthritis, literally overnight. No, you didn't. The symptoms came up, but it took years of destroying your joints before you get the arthritic, deformed joints. During this time, I got rheumatoid literally overnight. Do you see any possibility in that inhaled wood smoke could tip your body over the edge and cause this disease? Seems like I read somewhere about this somewhere. Lungs are fine now. And then a smiley face. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Mark. That certainly could have been the trigger that set it off. And as Michelle said earlier, you want to test, not guess. And, you know, to start off with, I would start looking to see what chemicals your immune system is fighting right now and what pathogens your immune system is fighting. That's Cyrex, what is it, 11 and 12. Cyrex array number 11, array number 12. And with an autoimmune disease, you always want to do the wheat zoomer because it measures your markers of intestinal permeability and sensitivity to wheat. So I'd start there. Actually, I'd start by working with Michelle. You know, you play if you play your own doctor, you might get some decent results. You might not, but your joints keep deteriorating more every day. And, you know, people just don't know who they can trust. I think everyone on this call knows that we've got a remarkable resource in Michelle with her level of knowledge and her compassion. So I wouldn't hesitate for a moment. Consultations at theDr.com. Josue, J-O-S-U-E, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that. Any diet suggestions? I have 2 daughters, one with Hashimoto's, the other with juvenile arthritis. Thanks. Oh, sure, absolutely. Michelle, what's common with Hashimoto's and juvenile arthritis?
Got to get to the root cause of them. I mean, I would want to see a wheat zoomer. I'd want to see a dairy zoomer on that juvenile arthritis. There's a big connection there, but also arthritis, you always want to see what kind of pathogens. There's such a strong pathogen connection.
Absolutely. You know, if you read my book, The Autoimmune Fix, in there, I put the story that I was sitting outside on a deck, a restaurant, Sunday afternoon, having brunch with my friend, Dr. David, in Seattle. And this couple was sitting over there with a young teenage girl, and they kept looking at me and they kept looking at me. And I thought I knew what it was, you know, and as they were leaving, they came over and said, "Excuse me, are you Dr. Tom?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "This is our daughter. You saved her life." And I just looked, and she started crying. The mother started crying and saying, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." They had watched the Gluten Summit, and their daughter was diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis at 6 years old, 5 years old, something like that, and had been on steroids for a number of years at that point. No, 3 years old. at 3 years old and on steroids. Now she was 13, I think it was, or 12, so 9 or 10 years on steroids. And the little girl had failure to thrive because long-term use of steroids will stop the body from growing in a child. But they'd stop the steroids and all the inflammation would come back. She couldn't walk and she'd cry in pain, and nothing else worked, so they put her on steroids. But failure to thrive was the price that they paid. And they heard the Gluten Summit, and they immediately decided it's not going to hurt us. We're all going gluten-free. Within 2 weeks, this little girl was completely symptom-free. Within 2 weeks, dad lost 25, 30 pounds. Cholesterol went down to normal, got off his medications. Mom's energy was up. She had some symptoms I don't remember. And I'm just seeing her sobbing, standing there. You know, it made me a little uncomfortable. I stood up as they were talking, and so for this question, just go to Google and type in Hashimoto's and gluten, and look at all the studies. And go to juvenile arthritis and gluten, and look at all the studies. You're going to save your children a tremendous amount of years of suffering to follow Michelle's recommendation. Test, don't guess. So work with Michelle, do the tests, see where the problems are, and fix the problems. Because these children, we need children. We need our children's brains working so well to fix all the crap that our generation has set up in the world. This crazy time that we're in right now, and all of the pollution we've got and all of that. We need every child at their very best. So it's test, don't guess. Michelle, do you want to add to that?
That was perfect. Test, don't guess. I mean, that just sums it up. It's worth the money. I just ran a bunch of tests on myself, and I'm paying cash price, right? These tester prices are dictated by the lab. So there's no deal, but I'm worth it. My health is worth it, right? I want to make sure that I'm monitoring, I'm healthy, because we don't always feel what's brewing. And I've had past health issues. So I want to make sure that I'm monitoring on a regular basis to make sure I'm healthy. And so test, don't guess. Mark also asked, so Mark's the one that was exposed to the smoke. He's saying, do drugs like Enbrel, which he's been on for 8 years, affect rebuilding the gut? And that are you familiar with that drug, Dr. Tom?
Yeah. It tears up the gut. It causes intestinal permeability. It alters the microbiome. It causes systemic inflammation. The list goes on. Just get the insert from your pharmacist. Just read the insert and you'll go, what? And if you need meds, you take them. Absolutely, you take them. You've got to function, but you don't live on meds. None of these meds are designed to be used. Most of them, the approval is for a usage period of 2 weeks to a couple of months, but they're used long-term. It's called off-label use, right? They're approved because the studies have people take them for a couple of months. Some people get better or quiet down their symptoms. They get it approved, and then they put them on it for years. So, and as in this case, Mark's been on this for 8 years. So test, don't guess, Mark. That would be the place to start.
Yeah, don't go off the meds. Just don't go off the meds on your own. That all has to be monitored by a doctor. And if your joints are under attack, you got to have the meds to calm that down while you're getting to the root cause of what started this all in the first place.
Right. Gwendolyn asked, should I take hydrochloric acid away from other supplements? You take hydrochloric acid with your meals, only with your meals, no other time. And you can take the supplements during a meal also, if they're digestive enzymes. But hydrochloric acid is taken with meals, period. I don't know of any other reason to take it. And it's a little dangerous to be taking it away from food.
Yeah, definitely with a meal, make sure that you don't have H. pylori, making things worse. And yeah, that also should be kind of monitored as well. Jeanette says, what? I love peanut butter. I hear you, girlfriend. It was my favorite food growing up, and it's not worth it, especially if you have mold. Not worth it. Can histamine make your nose burn? Absolutely. A histamine response can be runny eyes, rashes, runny nose. There's not thinking of any more right now, but there's multiple symptoms of a histamine response.
Alma asks, what's your opinion on a biological shot for severe food and environmental allergies? The biologicals are very powerful drugs trying to suppress your immune system. They're trying to shut down your immune system. And they've got tremendous amount of side effects. Just ask the pharmacist for the insert and read about the side effects. If you need medication, you take it, but you reduce the need for the medication. How do you do that? Stop eating the foods. Find out what foods they are and get them out of there. The most common source of gasoline on the fire is what's on the end of your fork. And so you have to find out what foods work, what foods don't work, and rebuild the microbiome. Critically important. And we're working with Michelle. I'm sorry to be a broken record on this stuff, you know, but the people who are here, you've got a lot of great questions, and many of you have been suffering for many years. And we take it as, oh, well, you know, my daughter's got Hashimoto's because the doctor says it's common to have this. Just take these drugs and she'll be fine. No, she won't. It reduces quality of life across the board, you know, so take the drugs if you need them, but reduce the need. That's so critically important.
Yeah, you got to get to the root cause, because we have to learn to think that these symptoms are a gift from our body, right, Dr. Tom? The pain
Right.
is a gift that our body's trying to get our attention. And we're taught that we take a pain medication to tell it to shut up, right? Instead of saying, what's going on? Why are you experiencing pain? Right? And then just to touch one more thing on the food sensitivity, I've worked with so many people that do a food sensitivity test, remove those foods, don't get well, do another food sensitivity test. Now they're sensitive to all these foods. They remove those foods, don't get well. And it's this vicious food sensitivity panel after food sensitivity panel, because they're still not, what you said, they're not healing their microbiome, right? It's just the symptom of removing the foods that are the problem at that moment, but the foods are still leaking out of their gut and they're still sensitive to the foods they're eating.
Exactly right. Mark asks, and I think Mark is the one with the wood burning stove and rheumatoid arthritis, is a lot of fat bad if it's 90% from healthy fat? Well, Mark, if you're the same guy, is probably feeding your rheumatoid. Why? So if you're eating a lot of fat, go to theDr.com/LPS and just watch the video where I talk about the dangers of LPS and causing autoimmune diseases and sepsis. Because LPS piggybacks on healthy fat molecules and goes right through the walls of the intestine into the bloodstream. And if you've got elevated LPS levels, your body's on fire, man, and that's what sets up sepsis. Takes 30 or 40 years, but those people go down with sepsis. And so I would strongly encourage you, work with Michelle, test, don't guess, figure out what's going on for you. And if we don't find the answers for you, I'll eat my words on screen. I'm not sure how I'll do that, but I'll eat my words. I mean, I'm positive that you're going to find this stuff is in there.
And okay. Mark also has, we could do this one as our last because I know we're past 5. He's full of good questions. He says, my wife can put unlimited carbs into her system. She's 65 and her blood sugar never seems to budge. Does she have a super pancreas or will it suddenly burn out? See, I don't believe that her blood sugar doesn't seem to budge. I don't think anyone's done a full panel. I don't think anyone's looked at the whole cardiometabolic cascade, and we need fasting glucose and insulin and hemoglobin A1C and uric acid and LDH. We need a full functional medicine blood chemistry panel to put all the patterns together to see if there's blood sugar dysregulation, right? I mean, there's the glucometer you can do, like I said, first thing in the morning, 2 hours after meals, to look at it that way, but it's more than just that fasting blood sugar.
Yeah, there's something called the HOMA score. HOMA stands for homeostatic assessment, homeostatic model assessment. And it is the marker of insulin sensitivity or lack of insulin. When you're sensitive to insulin, it means insulin's working really well for you. When you've got insulin resistance, it means insulin's not working so well and your blood sugar's going up and you're on the road to diabetes. And you do a fasting blood sugar and a fasting insulin level, and you plug it into this formula. And we're going to put this formula on our website. It'll be a month or two before it's up there. But Michelle, our new website will be launched in about a month or so. And yeah. It's been a year, a freaking year.
A year? Let's go like 6 years, but who's counting?
Yeah, right. Longer meetings every week with these people. They told me it'd take 3 to 6 months. It's been a long time, but it's coming. And we'll have the home calculator on there, and everyone will be able to plug in their fasting glucose and their fasting insulin, easy blood test to get done, and check what your HOMA score is right away. So for now, you have to write down the formula. If you have a pen, write this down. If you don't have a pen, come back and listen to it. It's at the end of this episode. So the formula is, and this is because in the US, the models of measuring glucose and insulin are different than in England or in Europe. So this is US standards. The formula is fasting insulin times fasting sugar divided by 405. So you take the number for fasting insulin, like 92, you take the number for fasting insulin, whatever it is, divided by 405, and it should be less than 1.9. If it's between 1.9 and 2.9, you've got moderate insulin resistance. If it's above 2.9, diabetes is in your near future. So I agree with Michelle, your wife is not immune to this, she's just not noticing symptoms. So do a HOMA score and see where her blood sugar regulating capabilities are at.
And I just posted the HOMA calculator on Facebook for those of you that didn't quite have a chance to jot down that math equation, but it's quarantine time. We need to be doing math equations, keeping our brain sharp. So you can ignore my calculator and do that math formula. But insulin isn't automatically run. So you got to ask for it. Ask for it. It can be covered by insurance. Just ask, because ideally it should be in that 4-ish range. You know, again, there's some wiggle room there, but that's ideal. And the reference range is ridiculous. It's like up to 28. And that's on a HOMA score, that's going to be blood sugar dysregulation headed to diabetes. And so I've seen people come back with such a high number and they're shocked, right? So test. It's an inexpensive marker.
Agreed. All right, everyone. Michelle, it's always great to do this with you. You know, it's just so much fun. It allows us just to geek out, download, hopefully empower everyone to take a step forward in their health journey. Thank you all for joining us. Please like us. Please take a moment. We just gave you an hour of our time. Give us 2 minutes and like this and share it with friends, because Facebook will then send the announcements out to more people for the next one that we're doing. So if you take 2 minutes and like us and share it with a family member or a friend, you know, this is pretty interesting. you've got diabetes, you might want to listen to this, or whatever it should be. Thank you all very much. We'll see you again next week. Michelle, see you next month. Thank
Okay,
you.
take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.